To the Daily Brief. I'm Adam, and today we're cutting through all of the noise that comes through news articles and everything. We're going to get to the truth that we can find inside of these news articles. We're going to look at the data, and I'll give you some of my observations and where I believe you might be able to find some opportunity inside of all news articles. So if you're ready to gain your daily brief and a real estate edge in your industry, let's dive into our very first story. And this very first one is what I'm calling kind of the featured news of today. Okay, so let's jump right into this. All right, so this first article we're going to talk about is why real estate marketing can't afford distractions in 2026. This is by Inman News, and it really kind of just breaks down a lot of different things. There's a lot of information here, and we're just going to skim through this. And I'm going to talk about just giving you some actionable items that you can take from this article that I found that I think will help you in your real estate business. So it says, as marketers look ahead to 2026, the predictions are remarkably aligned on one point. Change isn't slowing down, it's compounding. Now, I will say there's literally nothing different about this industry. We have always had to change. Our industry is constantly changing. And part of the reason why I do what I do here is to kind of help you be able to navigate the changes that come at us, so fast that we can't sometimes even adapt to them. So that statement right there sets the stage for exactly why I do what I do right here. So I just want to emphasize that for just a second. All right. It says across platforms, reports point to tighter budgets, heavier automation, AI embedded deeper into everyday workflows, and audiences that are harder to reach, impress, and retain. Volatility, scrutiny, and fragmentation are becoming structural features of the marketing landscape, not temporary disruptions. All right, so yeah, there's always this going on though. But I will say, and I think this is where this article is going to go, it's going to go more into the idea of like what AI has done in the technology front, as well as a lot of the lawsuits and things like that have shaken up our industry overall. So it says volatility is the baseline. If 2025 felt unstable, I think some of us would probably agree that it kind of did. 2026 is shaping up to be even more so. Now, that's a little bit fear-mongering, but I think they get to the point on what this is actually going to mean. It says nearly 2/3 of B2C marketing executives expect greater volatility in the year ahead, according to Forrester, with tighter budgets and leaner teams already factored into plans. More than half anticipate budget cuts, and a similar share expect reduced headcounts. Okay, so what this means for real estate professionals, expect more scrutiny, less predictability, and a higher bar for trust and measurable results. And it says right here, it says AI remains, let's highlight this, AI remains a double-edged sword. Adoption continues, but enthusiasm is cooling as risks grow. Forrester predicts AI-driven data breaches will increase class action lawsuits by 20%, and fewer than 4 in 10 employees feel confident adapting AI systems at work. The message for 2026 is caution, not retreat. So I will say this. This is like that. Anytime there's like this crazy new shift in any kind of industry, you end up having a lot of fear that kind of inserts it into it. And AI has kind of caused that. I will say exponentially, it is ramping up and integrating itself in so many different ways so quickly. It's really, really hard to keep track of all of those things. So that's where the disruption's coming at. And that causes a lot of fear. And there's been some of this inside of the real estate industry as well. But I truly believe that AI is going to kind of integrate itself to some point, and it's going to become the norm of our lives, but it can't replace the actual feet in the ground. And that's, again, going back to what I was talking about as far as what we are. If we got to shift from all this aggressive type of tactics and focus on the relational aspect of it, because what AI cannot replace is that relationship that you build with people. It can't replace that. I mean, anything AI cannot replace that human interaction. So I just say lean heavily into personal relationships. All right, the obvious trends still matter, but execution is the differentiator. Looking ahead to 2026, most social media predictions point to the same two forces: AI embedded deeper into marketing workflows, and short-form video continuing to dominate engagement across platforms. An infographic roundup of 15 social media marketing trends. So, really, that's not wrong. The whole like TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts, that quick way of getting information out is becoming kind of the norm of getting, people that are digesting information. So that is truly where it's at. But again, there's so much. I'm not against having fun on social media platforms and doing the TikTok stuff and having fun with it. But at the same time, there's a missed opportunity to provide something of true value there. Have fun, but I would follow it up with something that is even more substantial. Because if this is the way people are digesting it, we need some really good voices out there putting out truth to counteract any kind of crazy that might be going on. So note for you guys as real estate agents, lean into some short form video of some kind. That is kind of the way we operate. So just keep that in mind. What's notable isn't that these trends exist, it's how unevenly they're being applied. AI is moving beyond experimentation into everyday use for content creation, optimization, and analysis, but brands that treat it as a shortcut risk losing clarity and trust. This is where, YouTube and all these places are cutting down, are really coming against people that are using AI in all of their material. They're looking for that original mistakes, the human element, the mistakes, the realness, and not the scripted. They are looking for, and their algorithms are pushing that type of content to the forefront. So this AI stuff, it's noticeable when someone's doing AI. To be honest, it's like very evident that's AI. So, and I'm not saying you don't use AI. I'm just saying though, it cannot be you. It cannot replace you. And people are craving that personal interaction. So, learn AI and lean into it, but just I wouldn't adopt it as your core way of relating to people. It says what this means for real estate professionals: master a few core formats and platforms. Use AI to support strategy rather than replace it, and keep your content grounded in purpose and audience needs. So that would be absolutely true. Again, it's like using this logistically, using AI logistically is a good thing. Using it to do all the things that you do as a human, not a good thing, because it's going to make you seem so fake. Connection beats volume in 2026. There we go. Okay. The clearest takeaway from 2026 social media trend data isn't about formats or tools. It's about restraint. Video remains central. Totally agree, guys. You can't escape video. With short form still driving discovery and long form gaining ground on platforms like YouTube. AI-generated content is becoming mainstream. Serialized content is earning attention. None of that is new. What is changing is how audiences respond. Saturation is pushing brands away from high-volume posting and towards resonance, community, and recognizable voices. I have said this in previous live streams. YouTube and a lot of these places are becoming like the community hub for where you have dialogue, you build a community, and you connect with people. That's becoming the norm. And that is the area where people are looking and craving for, truth and the true relationship. They're not looking for just being bombarded by just a lot of information that is just AI generated. They're looking for a human connection. They're looking for real, and they want to know who you are, and they want to connect. So they're going to these YouTube platforms as a central hub for that. That's what they're looking for. So keep that in mind as you're building your plan for marketing in 2026. Consider getting on YouTube and having a channel. Consider it. I mean, honestly, I'm not any expert at this, but as far as understanding real estate and the needs, I mean, and how this all works, maybe I could offer some help there if you're interested. Another shift gaining momentum is social search. Younger audiences are increasingly skipping traditional search engines and starting on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, turning social content into discovery. So that's a big thing, guys. Like if you're trying to market yourself, so YouTube gives you the ability to be real. It gives you the ability to connect with people. It gives you the ability to create community. It gives you the ability to create videos that last forever that people can go back and reference. So you become the voice that they hear. And if what this article is saying is that the younger generation is beginning their searches not on like Google, but they're going to like YouTube to find answers, and TikTok and Instagram, then you need to be a source of information on these platforms. But this is not your typical like throwing out marketing and again, going back to those vanity metrics. I think that's been done so much where it's like, I'm number one and I'm great. Look how much I sold. The reality is a consumer could care less. I would, if you want to brag about awards or brag about things, I would very heavily lean into the way you market being more about the person that helped you get there than it is that you got there. So, and I would use your platform, your social media, to make human connection, not bragging. I mean, they're looking for genuine connection. The ones that's going to do that are going to win. What this means for real estate professionals: consistency, recognizable faces, and useful, searchable content will most build trust over time and give your audience a reason to come back. Pinterest is still a signal, not a vibe. Pinterest 2026 trend predictions are less about chasing what's flashy and more about spotting where intent is building early. What makes Pinterest data useful is when it shows up, people use a platform to plan, not perform, which means shifts in search and saving behavior often surface months before they appear on more reactive social feeds. So I don't know much about Pinterest. I'd probably need to investigate Pinterest a little bit more. I honestly not really have used that. If you're out there and you've used it, let me know in the comments what your experience has been. What this means for real estate professionals: Pinterest remains a powerful planning and discovery channel. Pay attention to emerging lifestyle and home-related trends early, then use them to inform visual storytelling, listing content, and long-term brand themes before they hit saturation elsewhere. I know Pinterest is a place where you can pin things and of interest to other people. So I know a lot of real estate agents have used it in a way where they maybe will go out and get listings and they'll find like a home that's decorated really well, and they'll do like a blog post about this, and then they go to Pinterest and they pin that blog up there, and they use the tags and the hashtags and everything to link that to that trend in that type of decor. And there's probably many other ways to use it, but if you're on Pinterest, I'd be curious to see kind of what you've got going on. Will, good morning, buddy. Thanks for being here, my friend. That's my son, by the way. That's great. Good to see you, buddy. Hey, actually, Will, that you're on here. Thank you. Tell me if my audio is coming in. I've changed everything around, and now that you're here, if you could just tell me that would be excellent. Platformers 2026 predictions point to a rougher platform era. It says Casey Newton's 2026 forecast is basically this: AI keeps expanding. Okay, thanks, buddy. But the downstream impacts get messier. He argues the AI bubble won't stop even if some companies flame out, with the major labs still jockeying for dominance. So plan for more platform unpredictability. Sorry, I wasn't sharing my screen. Plan for more platform unpredictability. Keep your content strategy resilient, owned channels, emails, SEO, and treat AI as productivity layer, not a trust layer. The rules, the risk, and the norms are likely to shift fast. So the whole point in this statement, I'll share this in this article in the notes. But the whole point here is, like, anytime you have a major technology shift, you should never lean so heavily and build your entire business model off of that. And if you've been doing this for any amount of time, you know what I'm talking about, is when you trust, a platform like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, Homes.com, all these type of industries, and the ones that were here and are now no longer here, you now know that they were here and now they're gone, or they were here and they changed their systems. We need to be aware of these things, and then we need to shift and adapt to them and implement them when we can, but not put all of our eggs in one basket. So what they're saying here is literally like lean into what you own, like your channel, like your YouTube channel, your TikTok, your social media, your Instagram. Lean into your stuff that you control, your email, your SEO, your CRMs. These type of things is where you're going to build your business from. Let's see. Too long, didn't read. We're going to skip that. All right. So let me just give you a couple little takeaways that I'm going to draw from this article for you guys to do. So here's some actionable items I'm going to give you. All right. What I would say is go back and audit your entire tech stack. What I would say is go look at what you've been using, or even what you have not been using. Audit both. Audit what the brokerage that you have provides, and audit what you've been using. And begin to look through that. And if there's something in there that you have not used in like 30 days, realize that that's technology that you probably don't need. That is something that you're probably either wasting money on or time on. So either or, I would audit the tech stack that I'm doing, especially starting this new year. But at the same time, I would go back and audit your time and look at that through the lens of, is there some kind of technology that I can incorporate into my business that helps me then build a stronger company and a more, relational type company. So I would say that would be an actual item reading through this article. Another one I would say is I would use AI for logistical type things, but I would replace that generic like AI generated posts with really raw human first video content, right? I would lean heavily onto video. I know people don't like it, but I would lean into video. It is what everybody's doing that's doing anything for the future. It's where we're at. Video's becoming more and more accessible too. It's easier to record, it's easier to upload, the way it handles data, all that is improving. So that's becoming the norm. So I would replace a lot of the AI generated stuff. The automatic posts with AI generations. Look, it's so fake. You can tell it's AI. Be human. Get on camera, walking through a house, make mistakes, stumble around, trip, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Have fun with it, but be human. Human first. I would also double down on whatever lead source that has actually brought you in business. So go back, look through 2025 leads, see what has actually brought you in business. See what lead source has brought you the most amount of business. So rather than dabbling in all these other lead sources, I would lean very, very heavily on the ones that's actually converting, and then start incorporating the rest as you get systems in place. And then what I would finally do in regards to this, I would create a 2026 like storytelling content pillar type thing, where it's basically you're saying like, this is what my goal is in my social media planning. I want to connect with people. I want to have a relationship type business, and I want to transform people's lives, something along those lines. And then when you're getting ready to post anything on social media, video, Facebook, whatever it may be, you walk it through that lens of storytelling with your content pillars in mind. Like, you want to be relational. So when you're thinking through making a post, don't just throw a post out there just because you have to beat some kind of algorithm or they tell you got to post so many times. Make sure that it's on point, it's human, and that it's a story in some way that connects with the person, right? All right. So kind of in summary, that this AI slop that we're kind of in, consumers are fatigued with this. They realize the low quality of it. They want a human. Okay. So if I was to summarize this, they want to connect with a human. So I would heavily lean into that. All right. So hopefully you got something good out of that and you can make some notes and do that. So let's jump into the next article for today. This one here is 2026 real estate outlook, what leading housing economists are watching. And I don't want to end this show at all without talking about the market. We're now in a new year, and there are certain things that are published this time of year in regards to predictions leading up to the new year. This live stream, I talked a lot about the market and what was going on. So I want to start this year off talking about a little bit about what the economists are saying. I think it's important for us to keep our tabs on what is happening. So let's get into this article that was by nar.realtor.com, or I'm sorry, nar.realtor. It's part of their magazine series. It says housing economists weigh in on the forces most likely to shape housing business in 2026, from mortgage rates and inventory to demographic and regional shifts. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's get into, okay, I'm going to jump straight into this right here. Dr. Lawrence Yun, right? So I actually, a few years ago, had him on my show. He is the chief economist for NAR, very smart guy. I will say he's cautiously, he cautiously makes statements about predictions. And I so appreciate that. Because again, he's never going to be this crazy hype guy. He just he's very, very chill, very easygoing, and just kind of says what the data says and then lets it land, right? So I appreciate that. So Dr. Lawrence Yun, thank you for what you do. And his quote was this: "We are seeing a little better condition for more home sales, with more inventory and the lock-in effect steadily disappearing." So the lock-in effect is basically homeowners had bought at a point where the interest rate was so low that now the interest rate is so high, they're kind of locked into their home because if they sold their house and went to buy something else, they would have a higher interest rate. So they feel like they're kind of stuck. So that is what he's referencing there, that it's kind of changing just a little bit. All right. Because life-changing events are making more people list their property to move on to their next home. Next year should be better with lower mortgage rates, and that will qualify more buyers. We are expecting home sales to increase by about 14% nationwide in 2026. So this has been a very common statement. As I read economists, they've all kind of agreed on this. I've not seen anyone kind of deviate from this whatsoever. All right, it says equity remains, but home prices moderate. Home price growth will be minimal, roughly 2 to 3%, about the same as overall consumer price inflation. Generally, wage growth will be above that. So it's a year where people's income begins to rise a little faster than consumer price inflation and home prices. And this is a welcoming development. So this is that balancing act. I talked about this all last year. Is we are at kind of like the reset of the market. The inflation, because of the interest rates landing about where they are, has caused the inflation to kind of cool a little bit. So that income and inflation gap is beginning to close a little bit. So then people feel more comfortable to go out and buy because the job market is improving and their income is improving. Now it's marginal, but since inflation is only 2 to 3%, that margin of income increasing versus the inflation should at some point get really, really close. And we're seeing that price adjustment as well. So this is all good news to bring in a balance back to the market. All right, less pressure on buyers. Inventory levels are about 20% above 1 year ago, so there are more choices for consumers. We're not back to pre-COVID inventory yet, which I would consider normal. So we're still in a slight housing shortage condition, but consumers do not have to rush decisions the way they did before. There are more choices out there and less prevalence of multiple offers. So there you go. Buyers out there listening, you can shop around a little bit. We're not in a crazy inventory plight. We're still at a deficit, but properties are sitting a little bit longer on the market. The American dream is still alive. The desire for homeownership has not fallen. Many renters say that if the conditions are right, they would like to become homeowners. The past couple of years have been frustrating because of elevated mortgage rates, but things will be much better to achieve that American dream of ownership in 2026 with more inventory choices and mortgage rates falling. So again, more stabilization going on in the market. Supply side signals. Robert Dietz actually had him on the show a few years ago too. He's still in the same position as he was. He is the National Association of Home Builders chief economist. Had him on, talked about the building back. This is during the COVID era, and talked about many different things that was going on. Great guy. Again, very knowledgeable, straight to the point, uses data, no hyperbole at all, just a really simple spoken guy. And he says, we're seeing some improvement in new home construction. One of the big helping factors is the ongoing easing from the Federal Reserve. While the Fed doesn't control mortgage interest rates, lowering the Fed funds rate does have a direct effect on the interest rates that builders pay on construction and development loans. That's good news for the supply side, good news for inventory, and therefore good news for home buyers and renters. For 2026, we're looking for about a 1% gain in single-family home building and about a 1% gain in new home sales. Again, what we're seeing here is a more stabilization in the market, a more of a reset. So if we can see more new homes being built, that means income is caught back up, inflation has cooled, and there's a margin there. So that Fed cutting the rate helps with the purchasing of materials. So that number does come down, regardless of mortgage rates, right? So again, more good news. New homes versus resale pricing, an unexpected dynamic. The median resale home price right now is actually more expensive than the median price of newly built home. That's only happened 2 or 3 times over the last few decades. The combination of builder incentives, including price cuts, and the geography of where new construction is occurring has produced this odd situation where the typical resale home is more expensive than a new built home. So keep this in mind. If you're a real estate agent, listen out there, remember, keep this in mind that don't count out new built homes. There's a lot of times these builders have a lot more incentives to make it more affordable for your client to buy a new home. So I like new homes. I think they're a valuable asset to our industry. So this has only happened a few times in decades. So there's a massive opportunity here. So plug that away in your mind. Don't forget that. I'm going to skip on down. Geographic shift to watch. One of the trends we're keeping a close eye on for 2026 is geography. We've seen new home markets slow down in previously hot markets like Texas and Florida, in part because of some limited cyclical overbuilding and the fact that mortgage rates remained above 6% in 2025. But there are also pockets of strength emerging, particularly in the Midwest. Markets like Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, and Kansas City, areas that have long been more affordable and are close to major universities, are showing outsized growth. So if you live in any of those markets or selling in those markets, there you go. Housing affordability improves. Danielle Hale, Realtor.com chief economist, says the biggest trend that we're most excited to see is an improvement in affordability. That's going to be good news for buyers and a contributor to the fact that home sales will finally start to go up and get away from this 4 million home sales floor that we've been very stuck on over the last couple of years. Improving affordability is a really important component of that increase in home sales for 2026. It says pricing sensitivity and balance. We're not going to labor this too much more. You kind of get the idea, right? Monthly payments ease. Our estimates suggest this will be the first time we see monthly payments decline since 2020. Mortgage rates are expected to be lower, which helps offset the roughly 2% home price growth that we expect in 2026. On net, affordability is improving because those monthly payments are shrinking, and incomes are also expected to grow. In real terms, home prices are actually going to decline, meaning they'll be more affordable relative to other goods and services. That doesn't mean we'll see sticker prices fall, but it does mean affordability is improving. See, there's a lot more factors inside of real estate than just pricing and interest rates. There are so many more moving parts that make this industry just so fascinating. And the more we kind of pay attention to this, better we get at seeing what these trends are, and we begin to be able to call this out. So again, this is why it keeps my brain sharp to do this. Hopefully you see some value in this as well. I'm going to try to wrap this article up. It says, Jessica Lutz, NAR Deputy Chief Economist. We're watching the share of first-time home buyers and the share of all cash buyers because that push and pull has really dominated the market. Another trend I watch closely is the growing share of single female buyers. We're seeing single women really growing as a force in the market, and that reflects lower marriage rates and lower birth rates. There will continue to be people who buy homes, but it could be a different type of person than what we have seen historically. These demographic shifts are really shaping who is able to make moves in this housing market. Something to pay attention to. First-time buyers gradually reemerge. So if you're in that market, something's going on there. Baby boomers remain the dominant force. Look, they have the money. The baby boomers have the money, right? A lot of them might even have their homes paid off or getting close to having them paid off. So they've got the equity in their home. So as far as that lock-in effect, they stand the best chance to not be in a lock-in effect where they might be downsizing too as their kids, grow up, move out of the house, those type of things. They end up wanting to downsize. So that lock-in effect won't be as important to them. So that's a big, big market right there. And all cash buyers aren't going away. All eyes are on mortgage rates. That's always the case. I will get into this here in just a second. Melissa Dittman Tracy was the one that wrote this. Thank you so much for this article. Very good. And this was part of NAR.Realtor. So very good. So let me just kind of summarize just a few little things here. What I would say kind of going through this is there is more of a need now for buyer education. You need to have that buyer consultation and have it so well where it's helping them to basically you're prepping them for what it is to purchase and the purchasing power that they have. So what I would really begin to really lean into is helping them understand that the wage growth versus price appreciation and that point of tension, what interest rates really mean and how that shouldn't be the only considering factor in buying a home. So I would lean heavily into developing a very good buyer education, buyer consultation type presentation with them and making that just part of your daily routine. I would probably, when I'm looking at this news and I'm trying to think through like where I would spend my time marketing and trying to get business, especially if I focus on the listing side of things, I would probably spend more time focusing and prospecting on that mid-priced inventory zone for 2026. I think that's probably more of your sweet spot. Your highest market is sometimes difficult in a reset of a market, and then your low spot is very small amount of inventory. So that sweet spot is like right there. So I would go in and find out what your average selling price is in your area, and that would be that mid-priced point. And I would really lean heavily into marketing myself and tailoring my marketing to hitting the demographics of that type of inventory. And then when I go back to talking about like how I'm marketing myself social media wise, the videos and stuff like that we just talked about, I would make sure that my story and my content that I'm posting is aligning with the demographic that I'm trying to target and make that part of my mission here. I would also, probably on the listing strategy side, I would advise sellers to price kind of, if you're doing a comp analysis on a property and you're assessing what the property is worth across, in the subdivision or close by, once you get to a number, I would consider talking to your sellers about going 2% or so below what the comps are listed at. If they will do that, I think you're going to have you're standing a better chance to sell it. And I mean, this is a reach, but maybe a multiple offer situation could be triggered in some scenarios. I'm not saying that will happen, but I think your sellability goes up exponentially if you're about 2% below what the average selling price is in that comp. So that's where I would lean. I would also, as far as lead generation goes, I would study like any kind of local migration patterns. If there's a certain area that is moving to your area, or if your area, a lot of people are moving out, figuring out where that migration is going on. And especially if you're in the referral type industry, I would pay very much a close attention to what that's like. I really begin to research that and see what those patterns look like, because that's another demographic that you need to be targeting, right? So in summary, we do know this. Home prices are expected to rise 2 to 3%. And finally, they're matching the standard inflation, right? So we know that they're predicting that inventory is going to be up about 20% year over year. And now buyers are going to have more of a choice, right? So there we go. That's a lot to see. But anyway, I think that helps. Hopefully you found some kind of value in that. If you did like that and you are finding value in what I'm talking about, please consider checking out the article that I'll have posted in the description and read through this and just kind of dissect this. And then at the same time, I'll pause right here, is if you are finding value in this channel, consider subscribing, liking, and following, all those type of things that we do. I'm, again, going back to what I was saying, I want to build like-minded people that are thinking and wanting to build a real estate career, and taking little nuggets out of this is, I think, hopefully going to help you. All right. So let's go on to the next one here. This is story 3 that I'm talking about today, and it won't be that long. I'm going to go through this one pretty fast. This one here is by Yahoo Finance, my good friends. When will mortgage rates go down? The outlook heading into 2026. To be honest, I think it's just a good observation that they've given here. It says mortgage rates may have decreased only slightly last week, but the decline marks a significant moment. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate has dropped to its lowest point in 2025. The national average 30-year rate is now 6.15, according to the Freddie Mac. So what does this mean for the upcoming 2026 housing market? Will mortgage rates continue to go down? So we're going to jump on down. Are mortgage rates dropping? The answer is yes. Mortgage rates are dropping in general. Weekly declines are small, but longer-term changes are more drastic. So the reality is, and we talked about this, is we're not going to see this huge amount of crazy stuff going on with that interest rate, I don't think. I think we're going to see just these 0.1, 0.2 adjustments back and forth, depending on what's happening in the market, but more specifically, the job market. That's what they're watching, and that inflation, right? So they're watching these things. So they're going to be very careful adjusting that mortgage rate constantly. They're going to try to zone in on something that just brings more stability to the market and cools the market. And this, so far, where we're landing right now is working. It's causing what they want to happen to happen. This week's 15-year fixed mortgage rate has decreased by 6 basis points, now standing at 5.44. So if you're looking at a 15-year loan, it's a good time, 5.44. In situations like these, it pays to look at the numbers. Here's the Freddie Mac data on mortgage rates for the past 52 weeks as of January 31st, 2025. 30-year fixed rate mortgages was 6.15 to 7.04. So there's your fluctuation, close to being a percent. 15-year fixed rate mortgage was 5.41 from 6.27, right? So very good there. So rates on a 30-year and fixed rate mortgage are both having hovering above their annual lows. In fact, the 30-year rate is currently at its yearly low. So yes, mortgage rates are dropping overall. However, it seems unlikely that mortgage rates will hit 6% in the near future. See, I agree. I agree with that. They're going to try to hold this. Will mortgage rates go down in 2026? So this is the question, right? Will it go down? So the Federal Reserve has lowered the Fed funds rate 3 times in 2025. So what does this mean for mortgage rates heading into 2026? The latest from the Federal Reserve. When the Fed, the common nickname for the federal, let's see. Yeah, that federal funds rate tends to directly influence rates on shorter term lending, while mortgage, yeah, we know all this. Let's see. Yeah, so the Fed has indicated that it plans to cut its rate only once in 2026 due to several factors, including the public's negative sentiment regarding this news. There's also a good chance that rates won't fall too drastically next year. Okay, it's all logical, right? Unfortunately, we are unfortunately, we are emotionally driven creatures. And when these type of things happen, it causes a crazy amount of motion, and then it dictates what the market does. Even though sometimes the emotion is not grounded in the reality, it does cause drastic things to happen. So again, it's much safer just to hover here. Okay, so should you wait to buy until mortgage rates go down? In short, no. You probably shouldn't wait to buy a home until mortgage rates drop to 6% or lower. Mortgage rates are just one part of the affordability equation. You also have to consider home prices, a factor of housing supply and demand. The current housing market is in a crunch. So yeah, look, waiting. Okay, let's just go through this. What we just talked about is the market is still seeing a 2 to 3% inflation of the home value. If nothing was to change right now, obviously some kind of disaster could strike and things affect us, and the housing market could crash. The reality is, when we look at data and we hear what the economists are saying, we see what's going on, we don't see that in the makeup right now. So don't gamble. Like right now, if you were to look at the industry as a whole, you would say that you should buy. There's no reason to wait. With inflation still being above, income catching up, you need to buy, because you can always refinance. Let's hypothetically, let's say the interest rate does go down. Great. Go refinance then and get the lower rate. Big deal. But if you wait to buy, well, you're losing equity. Every month that goes by, you're losing equity of ownership of something. So you should buy a house. Like, you should buy. So I don't even need to read that. So it says, if you crave the comforts of home ownership, the best strategy in today's market may be to buy what you can afford, whether that means a smaller house or a condo instead of a single family home. Owning something puts you in a position to start building equity. Yes, what I just said, right? Yeah, there we go. All right, I'm going to skip all that just for time's sake. So hopefully you saw something inside of that that's helpful. Let me give you some actionable items here just to think. So when it comes to like the financial strategy here, you need to you need to think through this when you're having a consultation with a buyer. Cost of waiting sheet. Like, you need to have a sheet that says, if you were to buy at 6.45% versus 6%, you need to go and have a sheet broken down showing them the true numbers of that. And then take, what I love the closing sheets. I love the sheet where it's taken into consideration what your closing costs are. When you sit down with the client and you break that all down for them, and they can see, like, if you bought a house for this price and you got this interest rate, here's that number. And then if you did it for this, here's that number. But then when you factor in inflation and what's going on in the market and the job market and income and all those type of things in that buyer consultation, you will help them understand money. You'll help them understand. So you need to have that financial conversation with them, the cost of waiting. So get in there, get into the data, get into the numbers, run math, and figure out what the difference is in a 6.5% to a 6% rate. What is the difference in waiting versus inflation versus the amount of inventory we have now? What are they losing? Like, figure that out. Also, what I would then consider you do, and this is just a tactic for those that are considering going into, video and stuff. How about interviewing a lender? Talk to the lender about alternative loan products that they're talking about, right? There's a lot of things kind of circulating again, like ARMs and 2-to-1 buy downs and grant money and those type of things. Why not talk to a lender and say, hey, could I interview you? Could we talk about alternative loan products for my clients and talk about that? And then you can use that video to promote on your social media, giving something of value back to your possible clients. And then you become the source of knowledge and helping them get off the fence about buying or not, right? Then I would also lean into educating clients on what it is to, if you do buy now, how to refinance. Like, what does that look like? Like, if you did do this and you bought now and you're worried about the interest rate and all this kind of stuff, what's the process of refinancing? Explain what refinancing looks like. And then I would talk to them about affordability. I would go into like kind of highlighting like there are down payment assistance programs. I would emphasize like how that helps a buyer in your social media marketing that you do that provides value back to your client. I would consider all these type of things. So just keep all that in mind. I think that's all good. So I would say stop. To wrap this up, I would say stop waiting for 3% mortgage rates. They're not coming back. But 5.9 to 6 to 6.15, somewhere in that zone could be there. So why are you going to wait at all for that little percentage when we're at 6.15 right now? You could actually buy right now, begin building equity instead of waiting for this thing to happen, since where margins are so close. We're not getting below 6, I don't think. Could we hit 5.9? Maybe. Now, in a 15-year, we're obviously below that. So that's great. If they got a 15-year and they got cash heavy and it's a baby boomer, good market. But I would lean heavily into that. So there you go. Hope you found that helpful. All right, now on to story number 4. This one here is more of a helpful conversation with you guys in real estate agents, giving you some actionable items to kind of do this January. And it's an article by Inman. And it's called 3 January Mindset Shifts That Will Help You Start the Year Strong. So Inman is talking about kind of a mindset shift here. This isn't about like the typical like positive vibes, like I'm going to shift my mind and feel good and euphoria and all this kind of stuff. This is about future proofing. This is about your business against a year that will reward discipline and punish the distracted, right? That's what this is going to be about. It's like change your mind that there are certain things you need to be doing right now to future proof your business against a year that could be, forcing you to be punished if you're distracted from not paying attention to these things. So I found this article kind of helpful with this. All right, so let's just step into the new year with clarity, confidence, and a positive mindset. Amy Core writes, and get ready to make 2026 your best year yet. 3 mindset shifts for the new year. 1, treat the first week like a warm-up, not a sprint. The pressure to be ready on the first day of the year is real, especially for agents. We convince ourselves that we need to have our act together right out of the gate. New habits, new routine, all systems go, or we're already behind. But that mentality sets us up to burn out before we even begin. Instead of think of the first week of January like a warm-up for a big game. It's your time to shake off the nerves, find your footing, and ease into the year with intention. There's no rule that says you need to have everything figured out on January 1st. So give yourself permission to start at your own pace. Look, this goes back to my whole pushback against New Year's resolutions. You don't build a business as a business owner by setting New Year's resolutions. You build a business by setting goals and projections and going through the data and then implementing systems and tools to help you get to that point. So when a new year comes, it is not like, oh, I'm going to try all these new things and I'm going to be all aggressive, because you will burn out. The whole point of New Year's resolutions, like if you go to the gym right now, they're busy as ever. 30 days from now, vacant. So it's because all these New Year's resolutions where health and fitness is a lifestyle. It is not something you do come January. It's something you do constantly. There's no such thing as a day to begin. So yeah, it's good. We set goals and we set, purpose behind what we do. But what makes January significant? Why put the pressure on yourself to figure this all out right now? It's a marathon. Remember, marathons they're a very long race. There's a lot of strategy involved. You got to eat a certain time. You got to run a certain pace and to get to the end. And also the training to get there is weeks upon months of training to get to that point. There is nothing different about being in real estate, but it's about being intentional with things that you need to be doing and then implementing those things, right? So that's what she's saying here in this article. She's saying like lean into just take it one day at a time. Create a list of things you want to do, but gradually work through them. It says, number 2, get out of your head and into action. The new year often brings its own version of the Sunday scaries, those anxious thoughts that creep in before we shift back into work mode. It's a familiar pattern, but I've learned there are ways to manage it. For me, it's all about movement. I'll walk my dog, organize a room in my house, or do anything that keeps my hands busy. I've come to understand why this helps after listening to a recent podcast with Dr. Martha Beck, a Harvard-educated sociologist, author, and life coach. She explained that anxiety stems from the left hemisphere of the brain and our natural negativity bias. We can quiet that response by engaging the right hemisphere, which is the creative side. It's not about being artistic. It's about interrupting the anxiety loop with a task that involves creating something. And it can be as simple as writing, cooking, or even making a playlist. So, in other words, don't just stay in your head and stress about all the things you need to be doing. get out of your head, do something you enjoy and create and be human, and then gradually implement these type of things. It says reflect on wins, not just regrets. This time of year naturally puts us in a reflective headspace. I would agree. I've been doing a lot of reflection, but too often we focus on the things we didn't accomplish, the goals that didn't get checked off, or the ideas that didn't quite stick. My advice is to take a moment to ask yourself what worked in 2025, what energized you and moved your business forward. Take note of those things and think about how you can lean into them in 2026. That clarity can help build confidence while setting the tone for a strong, productive year. I think there's just a few little things inside of this simple article, nothing crazy, but it does help us to reframe our minds just a little bit. And really, how true is that we sometimes don't have clarity in the things that we're doing? We get confused, and then we lose confidence. But yet we need to be able to kind of see that. We need to go in with a lot of energy and see these things through. So let me give you just some of my own observations, some actionable items that I would say to do outside of this article. And really, it's not a profound article, but it is the beginning of the year, and it's time to kind of set the stage mentally to be able to embrace what 2026 is going to bring. So, impossible goals that force you to change the daily systems. Now, when I say impossible, it's like, in some ways, it's like, if I say impossible, it's like, I don't think I can do it. But then when you do it, it's like, wow, I accomplished something quite good. So it's not impossible in the sake that you can't accomplish it. It's that it's just so hard that I'm going to be excited about doing it, right? Does that make sense? It's like, it sounds confusing, but at the same time, it's like, it's so impossible that I'm going to do this because I said it was impossible and I'm going to prove myself wrong, right? That's what that impossible goal is. So I would set some kind of impossible goal for yourself, right? And change some daily system that helps you get to that impossible goal. So, and I would also schedule a time for accountability in yourself where we can just call it somewhat of a reflection, a time for reflection. Maybe every Friday or Saturday, you do a quick audit of your wins and your losses. So just reflect back and look and see what was some of your wins for the week and where you kind of lost some things, right? And then begin to tweak it the following week. These are not about drastic changes. This is really just about some personal accountability, some intentionality in looking at your business, and then being able to shift things around, what your business is doing so you can make adjustments versus wins versus losses. Then what I would do is I would shift from a transaction type mindset to what I've been talking about is a relationship advisor mindset. Do not think of your numbers and your goals as just numbers and goals. You need to put the relationship aspect behind those numbers, right? Those are people. Those are people. And you need to operate your business with them in mind. Client retention, referral, relational, giving back builds the legacy. And then what I would also then is develop some kind of discipline where you set every single day an hour time block to do nothing but prospecting, lead generating, following up with calls, those type of things. This is a no phone, no call, no email sending out. This is you making the calls, making the emails, right? Making those personal conversations and those touches. That's what I would say you need to do every single day. Treat it as an appointment. Set that meeting. 1 hour every single day, Monday through Friday, you are going to prospect. You are going to make the calls. Probably the night before, you want to set up some, contacts that you plan on reaching out. Aim to reach out to about 10 to 20 people and get in front of them. So we do know the first week of January is what I'm going to call system alignment. It's not just busy work. We're going to take our systems and try to align it with our goal, right? So going back, that impossible goal. What can we do that's impossible, but it's going to make us feel good when we do accomplish it? So, all right, very good. So that kind of wraps up everything. I don't have anything else going on. I thank you guys for being here. So that is your daily brief for today. Here's the way I'm going to end this. If you found this helpful, hit the like button to help the algorithm suggest this to others that may need to hear it. Consider hitting that subscribe if you would like more of my content to show up on your feed. And finally, check the related video that's going to pop up later on this screen for my deep dive on these conversations. In the meantime, be wise with the breath you've given, and see you tomorrow.